All right, so you're thinking about Exxon Mobil, huh? And if it should be in your portfolio as of December 2024.
Yeah.
We're going to do a deep dive into the company.
Looking beyond just the share price.
Looking at all their financials,
Yeah.
their market position.
They're push into cleaner energy.
Exactly. And, you sent over some great research.
I tried to.
Market cap rankings, analyst forecasts.
Went deep into Wikipedia.
Even a deep dive from Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with their financials.
Yeah, so they're currently the 17th most valuable company in the entire world.
Wow.
With a market cap of over $518 billion.
Really?
That's huge. And that's according to companiesmarketcap.com using December 2024 data.
Okay.
Their share price is sitting at $117.96, which represents a pretty decent 14.54% gain over the past year. But what I find super interesting is the swing. They had a $22.4 billion loss in 2020.
Yeah.
And then they rebounded to a $36 billion profit in 2023.
So 2020, rough year for a lot of people. I mean, that was right at the start of the pandemic.
So almost everybody.
So how volatile would you say they are? I mean, that's a pretty big swing.
Yeah, I would definitely say that 2020 loss was an anomaly. It was due to the pandemic and its impact on oil demand.
Makes sense.
But, the energy sector is inherently cyclical, so there is going to be some volatility if you're considering them as an investment. You're going to have to think about your own risk tolerance.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting to me, though, is that throughout all of that, they've maintained a pretty consistent dividend.
Our viewers love dividends, so tell me about that.
So their dividend yield right now is 3.26%, according to Morningstar.
Okay.
It's not the highest out there, but they have consistently paid an increasing dividend for decades.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So if you're looking for income, that track record is very appealing.
Okay, so financially, they seem to be in a pretty good spot. What about their market position? Are they still a dominant force in the energy sector?
Oh, absolutely. They produce about 3% of the world's oil, 2% of global energy.
Wow.
To put that in perspective, that's more than some entire countries produce.
I was going to say that's got to be more than a lot of countries.
It is. And they're not just an oil producer either.
Really?
They also have operations that span exploration and production refining and retail and even chemicals.
So they're truly an energy giant.
Yeah, a lot of fingers and a lot of pies.
A lot of fingers and a lot of pies.
Mm-hmm.
But the energy landscape is shifting. How is Exxon Mobil responding to the rise of renewables and the growing concern about climate change?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
They've actually been pretty active in recent years. They launched a low-carbon solutions division.
Okay.
They pledged $15 billion in investments, and they even set a goal to be carbon neutral by 2050.
Carbon neutral by 2050. I mean, that seems like a pretty ambitious goal for a company that's so heavily reliant on fossil fuels.
Yeah, it does, and it raises a lot of questions. Is it a genuine commitment, or is it just a PR move? Can they really transform themselves into a clean energy leader? It's a risky gamble, but if they can pull it off, it could be a game changer.
So they're trying to walk this tightrope between their legacy business and the future of energy. What about their innovation pipeline? What are they doing to make this low-carbon future a reality?
So they're exploring a range of different technologies.
Like what?
We're talking about algae biofuels, biodiesel carbon capture,
Wow.
even low-carbon hydrogen production. Some analysts are even speculating that their low-carbon business could one day be more valuable than their oil and gas operations.
That's a bold statement. Are you buying into that?
I mean, it's definitely an intriguing possibility, right? The world needs clean energy solutions, and Exxon Mobil has the resources and the expertise to be a major player in this space. But it's still early days for them.
Yeah.
They face technological and regulatory challenges. It's a high-stakes gamble.
And speaking of gambles, let's talk about valuation. Is ExxonMobil a good buy right now? What do the numbers tell us?
Okay, so their trailing price-to-earnings ratio, or PE ratio, is currently 13.72.
Okay.
Which means investors are paying 13.72 for every dollar of earnings that the company generates.
Okay.
They also have a price-to-sales ratio of 1.46, which means investors are paying 1.46 for every dollar of revenue.
So how do those numbers stack up? I mean, are they overvalued, undervalued, or somewhere in between?
So that's where it gets a little bit tricky, right?
Okay.
It's not just a black and white answer. We need to consider their growth prospects, their financial health, their competitive position.
And those ESG factors we were talking about.
And those ESG factors that we were talking about, we also need to factor in their recent activity as well.
Like what?
So they've made some strategic moves lately. For example, they expanded their Beaumont refinery.
Okay.
They invested $2 billion into that, which makes it one of the few U.S. refineries to increase capacity recently. And on the other side of the coin, they also sold off some of their onshore assets in Nigeria.
It sounds like they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. Maintain their dominance in the oil market, but also prepare for a low-carbon future.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And it makes analyzing their valuation even more complex because we have to look at both sides of their business,
Yeah.
their traditional business and their emerging clean energy ventures.
It's complicated.
It is complicated, but one thing's clear, they're not sitting still. They are actively adapting to this changing energy landscape.
So they're financially sound, a major player in the market, and making moves to position themselves for the future. But what about their services business? I mean, they're not just about extracting and refining oil, are they?
No, you're right. They have a significant presence in the services sector, providing everything from engineering and construction to project management and technology solutions. This part of their business is often overlooked, but it is a crucial piece of the puzzle.
So they're kind of a one-stop shop for the entire energy industry.
Yeah, exactly.
But let's be real. Exxon Mobil has had their fair share of controversies over the years. How does their environmental track record, and history with climate change denial play into all of this?
Yeah, that is a critical point, and it's something that every potential investor really needs to consider and think about.
Yeah.
Because, their past actions and their current commitments, they don't always seem to line up. And it raises some questions about, how sincere they are about this transition to a more sustainable future.
So on the one hand, they're this massive company. They've got a long history of profitability and a decent dividend. But on the other hand, they're deeply entrenched in an industry that's facing increasing scrutiny and regulation.
Yeah.
It's a tough call for investors who are trying to balance, their financial goals with their ethical concerns.
Absolutely. And let's not forget about the economic impact of their operations as well.
What do you mean?
We're talking about a company that can influence energy prices and job markets and even global geopolitics. I mean, the stakes are high and the implications are far-reaching.
So we've covered a lot. Financials, market share, innovation, pipeline valuation, recent acquisitions, and even their services business. And we even touched on, the ethical considerations and the broader economic impact.
A lot to digest.
It is a lot to digest.
It's important to remember there's no one-size-fits-all answer when it comes to investing, right?
Right.
What's right for one person's portfolio might not be right for another person's portfolio.
Exactly. So let's try to break down the pros and cons of owning Exxon Mobil stock. What are the potential upsides?
Okay, so, they are a well-established global player with a long and proven track record of profitability. They offer a reliable and growing dividend, and, they do seem to be taking steps, albeit maybe baby steps, towards a more sustainable future.
What about the potential downsides? What should investors be wary of?
So their reliance on fossil fuels is a major concern right now, especially given the increasing pressure from climate change regulations. And they are still subject to, the price volatility and the geopolitical risks that come with oil and gas. And that can make for a pretty bumpy ride.
Right. And we can't ignore their history of controversies.
Yeah.
Oil spills, climate change denial, all that's definitely left a mark on their reputation.
Absolutely. Those controversies are definitely something to weigh carefully as a potential investor. ESG factors are becoming increasingly important in investment decisions, and ExxonMobil's track record there has been mixed.
So it's a mixed bag. As with most investments, it seems like the decision ultimately comes down to your personal investment philosophy, your time horizon, and your risk tolerance.
Exactly. And don't forget those ethical considerations. How important are ESG factors to you as an investor?
Well said. We've given you a lot to chew on today, but hopefully this deep dive has equipped you to make a decision that aligns with your investment strategy and your personal values.
And remember, the world of energy is constantly evolving, and ExxonMobil is at the heart of that transformation. It's a company to watch very closely, even if you ultimately decide that it's not right for your portfolio.
And you know what? This conversation doesn't have to end here. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Head over to our YouTube channel and let us know what you think.
Tell us if you think they're on the right track, or if they're heading for a slippery slope. And while you're there, let us know what other companies or topics you'd like us to deep dive into. We're always eager to explore new territory.
Yeah, we're all on this journey together.
That's right.
And we learn so much from your questions and insights.
So keep those comments coming, and thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.
See you next time. It's kind of like watching a giant tanker trying to make a U-turn,
Yeah.
It takes time, and there's bound to be a few bumps along the way.
And speaking of bumps, what about the recent fluctuations in oil prices? How much does that impact a company like Exxon Mobil?
Well, oil prices are kind of like the heartbeat of the entire energy industry.
Right.
When prices are high, ExxonMobil is raking it in, but when prices drop, their profits take a hit.
Makes sense.
So it's a roller coaster ride, and investors need to be prepared for that.
Okay, so even with their size, even with all their different operations, they're still vulnerable to the, whims of the oil market.
To a certain extent, yes.
Oh.
But remember, they're not just passively riding the wave. They're actively managing their portfolio. They're hedging their bets, and they're investing in new technologies to try to mitigate some of those risks.
So it's a balancing act between navigating the present and preparing for the future. But what about their dividend policy? Is that sustainable given this volatility?
Well, that's a question a lot of investors are asking, right?
Yeah.
On the one hand, they have this long history of paying dividends, and they've been increasing them steadily for years. But on the other hand, those investments in their low-carbon solutions division and just the inherent volatility of the energy market could put pressure on that dividend payout in the future.
So it's not a slam dunk for, our income-seeking investors.
Well, nothing in the stock market is a guaranteed slam dunk.
True.
But their dividend policy is definitely something to watch closely.
Okay.
It'll be interesting to see how they balance that payout with their growth investments in the coming years.
And speaking of growth investments, we can't forget about share buybacks. How does that factor into their overall strategy?
So share buybacks can be a way for companies to return value to shareholders.
Okay.
And also boost their earnings per share.
Okay.
Exxon Mobil has been actively buying back shares in recent years, but it's important to note that, this can be a bit controversial.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, some argue that it's a short-sighted way to artificially inflate the stock price
Okay.
instead of, investing in long-term growth.
So it's a tool that can be used for good or for evil, I guess, depending on the company's motives.
Yeah, it really depends on their long-term vision.
It seems like a lot of moving parts to think about.
It's a very intriguing case study.
Yeah.
You have this legacy giant trying to reinvent itself in the face of a changing world. It's a high-stakes game, and the outcome is far from certain. But one thing is for sure, ExxonMobil will continue to be a major player in the energy landscape for years to come.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into ExxonMobil, what key takeaways should our listeners keep in mind?
Well, I think first and foremost, remember that investing is all about understanding your own goals,
Yeah.
your own risk tolerance, and your own investment timeline.
Right.
ExxonMobil is a complex company with a lot of potential, but it also comes with, its fair share of risks.
There's no easy answer.
No easy answers.
It's all about doing your own research and weighing the pros and the cons and making a decision that aligns with your own personal financial strategy.
Yeah, and don't forget to consider those ESG factors that we discussed.
Right.
How much weight you give to environmental, social, and governance issues is a personal choice, but it's becoming increasingly important in the investment world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so we've given you a lot to think about now. We'd love to hear from you.
Head over to our YouTube channel and let us know what you think. Do you think ExxonMobil is on the right track, or are they headed for trouble?
What other companies or topics should we deep dive into? We love hearing your ideas.
Yeah, if you're fascinated by the energy sector and the companies shaping its future, be sure to let us know in the comments.
And if you found this deep dive into ExxonMobil helpful, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel.
Yes, please do.
We release new episodes every week exploring a wide range of companies and investment themes.
We're here to help you navigate this complex world of investing and give you the information you need to make informed decisions.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into ExxonMobil. Until next time, happy investing.
See ya!